Okay, hey everyone, it's Alissa Magrum, Executive Director of Colin's Hope. Sorry for the technical difficulties here. We were supposed to be on, we typically do this on a different platform and it wasn't loving us today, so here we are. We're live here. We are going to be talking about questions and answers live right now, so if you have questions, please post them and I will do my best to answer them, but we are going to talk about water safety for younger children. So infants, toddlers, how do you talk about water safety with your youngest of kids? When do you talk about it? What are some common things that we've heard and some things that people have sent to us, or we always get asked questions. I've been doing this work. I've been the executive director. This is my 10th year, and I've been learning a lot about water safety over that decade, and I get questions all the time from people, a variety of different things. So we're going to do our best here to answer your questions. We've had some submitted, and the question I'm going to start with is, when do I even begin to talk about water safety with my youngest kids, so my infants, my toddler, and how do I talk about it? And so I'm going to talk a little bit from my own personal experience with my own child, but then things that we've learned along the way. So the easiest way to answer that particular question is, when would you talk to your child about something like don't touch a hot stove or any safety related thing? I know when I was parenting my child who's now 15, if I was putting her in the car seat and buckling her seatbelt, I would say, I'm going to buckle your seatbelt. Or if we were getting on the bike and I rode her around on the bike trailer and in the bike thing for a long time and putting on the helmet, we're going to put on our bike helmet, and talking even before maybe she was fully processing it, but starting to talk about those conversations. One of the things that we are trying to do here at Colin's Hope is talk about water safety, changing a culture of water safety. So just like we talk about some of those other things, bike safety, car seat safety, not touching a hot stove, even if you're talking about like the bath and not getting in the water if it's too hot, you start some of those conversations so early, even before your kids can really fully get it. And I think if we start doing that around water safety, we will have a much easier time talking about it on an ongoing basis. And the messages for water safety change as our kids get older. So one of the things is, like, when you talk to an infant or a toddler about water safety, certainly that's a very different conversation than if you're talking to a 3-year-old, or if you're talking to a 7-year-old or a 15-year-old, which is what I currently have. So it's a really, really interesting thing to start with. So when do you start? Start early. Start when you're bathing your child. So that's often the child's first access to water is in a bathtub. So think about it like this. If you're bathing your child, you're going to say, hey, put the baby in, you're staying within arm's reach. You want to acclimate them to the water. So you would maybe talk about, we're going to dump water on our head, and playing with the cup, and talking about, I'm going to stay right here while you're in the water, and start modeling that behavior. And then let's move to the pool. Say you have a backyard pool and you want to go out to the pool, teaching your child to ask permission about going to the door to go out to the pool. It's creating these water safety rules and these conversations. And if you make it natural and you start early, it just begins to become part of your dialogue. So if you're going to the lake, I live by the lake, so we used to go to the lake when Ella was really little. So we're driving to the lake, we have our life jacket, right? So starting those conversations so early is a huge, I think that the easiest way to start, and infusing it into your natural conversation. So it isn't it's normal. And that's about changing the cultural norms. And I don't know if Jessica Brown is watching, our program director, but we often use her son, Alexander, as our case study for this. He's 2.5, almost, well, he'll be 3 soon at the end of the summer, but he's been learning about water safety from the very beginning of his life. And that was because Jessica does it every single day, but those conversations started naturally. And we see him navigating water safety. Just, it's normal. It's normal to wear a life jacket down by the lake, even if you're not going swimming, but because you're by the water. Or it's normal to ask permission when they're walking by their apartment pool to say, there's the water. Yes, you wait for a grown-up to go. So my easiest answer to those questions is start early, when you would talk to your child about anything else. Even I'm trying to think of all the things around safety that I talked to Ella about when she was an infant, you know, getting, again, the stove is one we like to use, and the car seat and the bike helmet, but other safety things like talk about water safety with the same level of urgency and at the earliest of ages. So, and yeah, and Jessica, I saw a comment, Alexander loves the whole hand rules. And what she's talking about are the rules that are part of our water safety with Colin and Friends curriculum. And those whole hand rules, you can teach those lessons to your child, and you can get the bookmarks, these bookmarks on our website. You can get the curriculum. You can get access to a lot of these live broadcasts we've been doing for the last few months have teaches the whole, we recorded the whole hand lesson. So watch that lesson and start there. But the whole hand rules are wait for a grown-up, and we have hand motions that go with all of them. So wait for a grown-up. The hand motion is them pointing to the grown-up that's around them. Grown-up should watch you, and the hand motion for that one is this, which is a grown-up watching you. And so you talk about a grown-up should always watch you when you're around the water. And what is the water? The water is the bathtub. The water is the pool. The water is the lake. The water is the pond. Learning how to swim, talking about that. That's one of the whole hand rules is how important it is to learn to swim. And the first place that you can start to learn to swim is in the bathtub. And that's like getting your face wet and being comfortable getting your face wet. And you can even try to float on your back in the bathtub. Wearing a life jacket. So we'll talk about that question. I know I have a question about when should kids wear life jackets, and I want to talk a little bit about that as a separate question, but that's one of the whole hand rules is how important it is to wear a life jacket when you're on a boat, when you're walking to a boat, when you're around open water, or if you're not a strong swimmer. And there are times when you can wear wear a life jacket in a pool. So we'll talk about that in another question. And then the last rules are stay away from drains. And so that hand motion is this. Learn to swim. The hand motion is this. Wear a life jacket. It's this. And you can learn all of that when we do the lesson, the whole hand lesson. But then we talk about staying away from drains. And we have a lesson. We're going to do a lesson on that. And there's a lesson in the curriculum. And then also we talk about open water safety. So the whole hand rules is great. I believe we started doing that with Alexander when he was, he actually was the first one. I have a video of showing him when he was not barely crawling, the characters of the Water Safety with Colin and Friends curriculum. So he's been exposed to it so early. So you can start doing that. Another thing that is some of our partners, like this is Swim Time with Stewie the Duck, and we did a story that you can look in our virtual broadcast, and books are great. And this is the board book from the Stu Leonard III Children's Charities. And then we have, they have another Stewie the Duck. I just happen to have these handy. This is the polar bear who wouldn't swim from our friends at the Zach Foundation. So stories are another great way to have a conversation. I'm sure you have storybooks about other things. Josh the Baby Otter is another book. And that one, there's an app for Josh the Baby Otter as well as Stewie the Duck. So there's so many ways that you can talk about water safety with your kids that you don't have to start from scratch. I mean, if you get these bookmarks, you can do on the back of them, you can't really see it here, but on the back is creating water safety rules, and that's for a little bit older. But again, the moral of the story on this particular question is start earlier than you think you might want to start talking about water safety. So it becomes second nature. It just becomes something your kids or your grandkids or your kids that you're babysitting, whatever, whoever you're caregiving, that they begin to know that so early on. Okay, so another question that we got was, let's see, about life jackets and what kind and where should we wear them and when should we wear them, and we get questions about that all the time. And so life jackets, and there's some great on our website colinshope.org, there's great water safety resources and links to things. And so you can anything that I say, you can go to the Collins Hope website and get to a resource page in our water safety tips and learn more. There's basic information, there's opportunities to dig deeper, there's videos. So for example, in the Wear a Life Jacket one, I have two examples of life jackets. I don't have an infant life jacket here right now, but the infant life jacket usually has the headrest behind you, and you want a U.S. Coast Guard approved life jacket. And there's a great video on our website about how to choose the right life jacket. And they're done by weight. So you need to choose choose it based on your child's weight, not their age. And a lot of people ask that question and they think that it's by, but actually I see Perry Kowal, who had asked me a question for her granddaughter, her beautiful, sweet granddaughter, about life jackets just last week. And so they do it by weight. And so, and you want to look for a U.S. Coast Guard approved life jacket. And that is, they go by weight. So there's infant, then there's child, then there's youth. Then you go up into older, and it depends on the brand. Like this particular brand is a great partner of ours at TRC, and they do theirs by, this is a child small, and this is their youth medium. So they do them a little different, but the weight, but again, the pounds and how much the child weighs. And in our curriculum, we talk about a life jacket should fit tight like a hug. So when you put it on, actually, I can put this one on right now because it fits me, even though it's a youth medium. You'll look for the label on the inside right there, and it'll say U.S. Coast Guard approved, and usually it will say the weight. This one says 50 to 90 pounds. I'm a little bit more than that, but it fits me. So sometimes you have to play around with it a little bit, but you want it to fit tight like a hug. So, and all the buckles should fit. Should be fastened. So when you want it, you want it to fit tight like a hug, not so tight that you can't breathe. And you want to be able to lift up on it and it doesn't move. If it's too big and it lifts up over your head, it's too big. And if you can't buckle it, it's too small. So again, trying them on is really important. And again, U.S. Coast Guard approved. And to answer the question, we get a lot of questions around the puddle jumpers, which I don't have one here right now, but those are the ones that you might see that have the face on the chest thing, and there's arm ones. They are U.S. Coast Guard approved. They're just a different style. And I don't like them in open water necessarily, but they are U.S. Coast Guard approved. But we recommend the standard. These are our favorite, just your standard life jacket. And I want to talk for a second about when to wear a life jacket. So one of the things that we're finding in water safety is that there are number of children who are wearing a life jacket or a puddle jumper or some type of flotation device, and they're in the pool or the lake or the beach or whatever, and they take that off, they get out, they go have a snack, they take the life jacket off, and they find their way back to the water just by a door being left open, or you know, people are eating a snack and a child slips away, and they don't realize that they're not wearing that life jacket, so they get back in the water. And we've had drownings after a child's been in a flotation device and they make their way back to the water and there's a drowning. And so there's something that's really important if you're going to use life jackets in a pool setting, or even if you're going to use them we want you to use them in open water for sure. But first of all, an adult should be in arm's reach, always. That's the first thing. And also your child should spend some time outside of the life jacket with you in arm's reach or with you holding them, so they understand what it feels like to be floating and then not floating, so that when they take that life jacket off, they understand that their body is not going to behave the same as in a life jacket. And that's a complicated, it's kind of a complicated thing, but I don't like when I'm at a place and I see parents and caregivers, and just because they don't know, they plunk their child in the water with a life jacket on and they walk away to go do something else, and the child's floating there vertical and they're not appropriately in arm's reach. And then when that child gets out of the water, they don't understand that if they get back in and they don't realize they're not wearing that life jacket, or that they're not going to float. And that's an important thing that we talk about it, because it's, you know, there's a lot of information out there around children who've been lost to a drowning or almost lost to a non-fatal drowning after they had been in a life jacket or a puddle jumper and then made their way to the water out of it. So that's a really important thing to practice and role model with your children, is having, again, that conversation about, you have a life jacket on, you're floating, see how it feels to float. We're going to take the life jacket off and I'm going to hold you and you're going to feel what it's like for your body that you're not in the life jacket, and really being mindful about, we're putting the life jacket on, we're taking the life jacket off, you do not go to the water. And having those conversations, I think, is so important. And this is, I could talk all day about it, and I know we don't have all day. Well, I guess we could stand here all day, but so that's the life jacket question. Again, size 5 pounds, and you've really got to try them on. Go put them on. Some children might be more comfortable in a different style than the other, but U.S. Coast Guard approved, and make sure they're wearing the right size. And then each year, your children and you may change, the weight may change over the year. So what you're wearing this summer might be different from next summer. And so making sure that you have the right size life jackets and that they fit properly and that they don't have any rips or tears or the buckles aren't broken, so that they are functioning properly. So that's the life jacket one. Another question that we got was about swim lessons and how do I choose swim lessons and when do we start swim lessons? And so obviously right now, the situation that we're in right now in the middle of a pandemic, the swim lessons piece is changing and pools are opening across the country at different rates, and some swim lessons are happening, some are not happening. There's certainly a lot going on that would change my answer just based on what's going on right now. But the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends learning to swim starting after the age of 1. We recommend starting early. There's a lot early, and honestly, earlier than that. I know when my child, she started swim lessons when she was 6 months old, and it was a parent and me class where I was in the water with her and the instructor. And I say start as early as your child is comfortable and as you have lessons that are available. That's not, in every community is different in terms of what they have available, what types of lessons, where you can get them, and all of that. There's a lot of variables. There's an amazing resource, which we had her on a broadcast earlier, Swim Kim. So swimkim.com has a DIY Learn to Swim program, which you can purchase the program, and there's tons of videos around how do you help teach your child to swim yourself, which is really great. I actually think it's a great supplement. If you don't have access to swimming lessons, learning how to do that, and then also even if your child is enrolled in swimming lessons, using that as a bridge in between sessions of lessons or even in between lessons and practicing, and you as a parent caregiver being involved in that lesson. Of course, you yourself need to be competent in the water and comfortable in the water. But that's a great resource, and you can watch one of our broadcasts from before with Kim Schultz of Swim Kim, where she talks about that, her DIY program, because I think it's really, really great. And I've taught swim lessons with her, and she's an amazing resource. But learning to swim or choosing the swim lessons is really a preference of you and your family. There's so many different kinds of lessons that are out there. There's individual lessons, there's group lessons, there's different styles of lessons, and different schools of thought around swim lessons. And it's a lot of information. And I'm going to challenge you to do your homework and find out what's out there, what's available in your own community. What type of lesson would fit your child and your family? Not every child is the same, and they're not going to respond to the same style of lesson. Every instructor is really quite different. And so even within a particular, if you went to a swim school or something, the lesson instructors are different, and your child might respond to a different instructor, one instructor better than the other. There's a lot of things as a parent, just like you would choose a car seat or a pediatrician or some other parental choice that you would make. Do your homework. There are certainly a lot of information out there on the internet. There's a lot of resources that the U.S. Swim School Association, the National Drowning Prevention Alliance, Colin's Hope has some resources on there. But you really have to take choosing swim lessons and what type, at what age. It really depends on the development of your child. There are certain lessons that if you have a child who has some motor sensory integration issues or challenges, if you have a child who's on the autism spectrum, there's different things to consider with your child. You know best about your child, what they might respond to and what they would respond best to, and then start doing your homework and certainly reach out and ask questions and investigate, watch the swim instructor in person and see how they work. I mean, that's what I would do if I was choosing swim lessons now, knowing all that I know. I would go do my research. I'd choose a place that was convenient that I could get to. A cost is certainly, there's more expensive and lesser expensive ones. There's different styles. So there's no easy answer to a lot of these questions, which is kind of why we wanted to do a Q&A live, so that I could kind of expand on them. But again, there's a lot of information out there that is available for you, but you do have to be proactive to a certain degree. And so again, the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends looking at, swim lessons at the age of 1, certainly when your child is mobile, because then they begin accessing water more. But skills like learning how to float and putting their face in the water and being comfortable with their face in the water are skills that they can learn earlier than that. Some safety and survival skills. And you can teach, again, the precursor to learning to swim is getting your face wet. That's like the first step. So in the bathtub, making sure your child's comfortable putting their face in the water. And so using a cup to dump water on their face and giving them some cues so they're not 1, 2, 3, ready, go is one that Swim Kim likes to use. And you dump a cup of water and you start getting some of those things very, very early on. So that's the question there. Let's see. I'd love it if someone watching, because I know we have people watching, if someone has another question that they want to answer or that they want me to answer, but those are some hot buttons. Another one is we get a lot of questions about, let's see, I'm trying to think of what people chase me down in parking lots. I drive the Colin's Hope car and people chase me down all the time and ask questions. I'm trying to think of what some of the hot button ones are, but the Colin's Hope, we have a water safety quiz. I'll talk about that for a second because there's great questions, everything from don't leave a child unattended in the bathtub to how to get out of a rip current on our water safety quiz. So go there if you're looking for what should I even be asking, because it might spur up some things. Another thing that is a great question for really any age, but the difference between if you take your small child if they're in a bathtub or in a pool, and then you go to the beach for a beach outing, or you go to the lake, and making sure that we know that your family and you and your small child knows that that water is different. And that's again a great place to start with the conversation. Hey, we're going to the beach. There's waves. We have to act differently, and modeling some of those conversations at with the different types of water. So we could go on and on. I know we're already past 20 minutes into this, but we encourage you to submit more questions. We're going to keep doing live broadcasts as we go through the summer. And so we'll answer your questions, and you can always contact us at Colin's Hope and we can answer those questions. But we love these questions to come in these broadcasts, because then that allows us to interact with you. But again, check out the virtual activities that are posted on our website that may answer some of your questions. They have some of the great books that I mentioned. They have the whole hand lesson that I mentioned, which is great to start with your youngest kids. And then again, I challenge you to start asking those questions and talking about water safety so early. Talking about water safety as you start talking to your baby. And even if you don't think that they can understand what you're talking about, it will become something they're used to listening to. And so with that, I challenge you to do that. Help us change this culture of water safety. Help us end drowning. Help us, not lose more kids to something that's preventable. And the way that we're going to do that is if we're all engaged in this conversation. Those of us in the drowning prevention world, parents and caregivers, babysitters, we train lifeguards and have these conversations with lifeguards who have your family and small children and children of every age coming to their pool, as well as people like myself who are triathletes and lap swimmers. So all that to be said, thank you for those of you who submitted questions. I loved having the chance to answer those. If there's anything else, we're going to be talking about a Q&A for older kids as well, some different questions that we get around older kids. But send us your questions, send us your comments. We would love to answer them. And with that, we ask you to have your safest behavior that you can around the water. And as Colin would say, have the best day ever. It's really hot out there. I know here in Texas, it is 100 degrees. So we know that you're going to be getting into the water. And so just please do it as safely as you can and have those great conversations, and we'll all make it through this summer. We'd like to see not one more drowning. And so help us with that. So with that, everyone, have the best day ever, and we'll see you again soon.